Right, guys, this is Mr. Stevenson, the art teacher here. Doing a quick presentation on the fly. You want to know what is art, not what is arthritis? I guess we could start by looking at a YouTube video.
I think it's important that people look at art because we live in a visual world, and understanding and looking at and thinking about the way images communicate in all kinds of ways is important to being alive today.
If one has heightened visual acumen, which you get from spending time looking at things, whether it's looking at newspaper photos closely or looking at works in a museum or looking at your surroundings or birds more closely, that sort of attention to an environment makes you a better person. You are, existing in a more aware, alert, present space.
Sometimes people think that the only way of looking at art is going to museums and things like places like that, but maybe sometimes art is everywhere on the street if you look at architecture places or everything, so you really don't need to go to a museum to see art. It could be anywhere, in a park or looking at buildings or going to the movies, so I think the everyday life.
It's all about noticing for me. It's all about trying to see beyond the first impression. People look at art and they say, I like this, I don't like this, and they move on. They have predetermined notions. But if you can just stop and take a breath and look a little deeper at something, you can really start to notice some kind of detail that you might have not noticed before. And I think that skill applies to so many things in life aside from art, about being able just to slow down and be aware of where you're standing, and just even stop talking and just maybe open up your ears, for example. And there's so much detail around that you can absorb if you really just take a moment and just let it come in and listen.
All right, guys. So, first thing we want to do is pause our computer after you've heard this. Take 3 minutes to describe this 1938 painting, Le Durée Poignardée, which means time transfixed. A literal translation is La Durée, which means history, and Poignardée, which means stabbed in the back. It's a painting by René Magritte. So just take 3 minutes and either write down, or if you're at home, email me a list of what exactly happens here. Wow, that was a quick 3 minutes, guys. I know most of you didn't actually pause the computer, but you're really going to need to actually answer these questions and do what I ask when it comes time and we're talking about the art assignments here, guys. Okay. The next thing we want to look at is another video.
Perception and our ability to translate to others what we see. Those skills are useful. Those skills can save lives. Doctors, nurses, and law enforcement agents can use painting, sculpture, and photography as tools to improve their visual acuity and communication skills, which are critical during investigations and emergencies. If you're treating an injury, investigating a crime scene, or trying to describe either of those things to a colleague, art can make you better at it. Here, imagine you're a seasoned cop or a dedicated doctor, but also imagine you're at a museum, and let's look at a painting. René Magritte's Time Transfixed of 1938 depicts a mysterious and complex interior that invites analysis not unlike that required of a patient's symptoms or the scene of a crime. A miniature train, whose origin and destination are unknown, is emerging from a fireplace, and the smoke from the locomotive appears to flow up the chimney as if from the fire that is conspicuously absent below. The eeriness of the scene is echoed in the empty living room, enhanced by wood-grain floors and decorative wall moldings to the right of the fireplace. Perched atop the mantelpiece are 2 candlesticks and a clock. Behind these objects is a large mirror that reveals an empty interior and only a partial reflection of the objects before it. The juxtaposition of the objects surrounding the moving train raises numerous questions for which there seem to be no apparent answers. Did I summarize the painting accurately or leave any details out? It's no big deal if you see something else in a painting, but what if we're both seasoned cops? I call you for backup, you show up, only to realize the 2 bank-robbing ninjas I'd mentioned were actually 6 bank-robbing ninjas with lasers. Close study of art can train viewers to study thoroughly, analyze the elements observed, articulate them succinctly, and formulate questions to address the seeming inconsistencies. Scrutinizing the details of an unfamiliar scene, in this case the work of art, and accurately conveying any observable contradictions is a critically important skill for both people who look at X-rays and those who interrogate suspects. Let's interrogate this painting, shall we? Okay, Magritte, that's quite a little picture you've painted. But why aren't there any train tracks? Why no fire? What happened to the candles? Why doesn't the fireplace have a little tunnel for the train? It just comes straight through the wall. And the clock says it's about 1:45. But I'm not sure the light that comes through the window at an angle says it's just past noontime. What's this painting all about anyway? That's when you, my trusty partner, hold me back, then I leave. You get Magritte a cup of coffee and keep grilling him to see if this painting would hold up in court. Viewers can provide a more detailed and accurate description of a situation by articulating what is seen and what is not seen. This is particularly important in medicine. If an illness is evidenced by 3 symptoms and only 2 are present in a patient, a medical professional must explicitly state the absence of that 3rd symptom, signifying that the patient may not have the condition suspected. Articulating the absence of a specific detail or behavior, known as the pertinent negative, is as critical as stating the details and behaviors that are present in order to treat the patient. And conspicuous absences are only conspicuous to eyes trained to look for them. Art teaches professionals across a wide spectrum of fields not only how to ask more effective questions about what cannot be readily answered, but also, and more importantly, how to analyze complex real-world situations from a new and different perspective, ultimately solving difficult problems. Intense attention to detail, the ability to take a step back and look differently. We want first responders to have the analytical skills of master art historians at least. Art trains us to investigate, and that's a real-world skill if there ever was one.
Okay, guys, so how many of you actually ended up getting that much out of this piece of art? You might have had some of the elements of it correct, like there's a train, there's a fireplace, there's a candlestick, there's a clock, there's a mirror, there's wooden floors. But how many of you actually took the time to say the train was coming out of the wall where the fireplace is, there's smoke coming out of the train, the positioning of the candlesticks, the fact there are no candles in the actual candlesticks. So all important things we need to think about when we're describing and looking at art, be it our own or other people's. Speaking of art, what is art? Art is a diverse range of human activities in creating visual, auditory, or performing artifacts, artworks, expressing the author's imaginative conceptual ideas or technical skill, intended to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. Here's a bottle of Coke. Is this art? Does it show technical skill? It somewhat does. I mean, it's an alright looking bottle of Coke. This is from 1962. It looks like what might have been in a magazine in that era, or even painted on the side of a gas station, perhaps. It doesn't really have great technical skill, but indeed you can tell it's a bottle of Coke. So I would say it's not technical skill intended to be appreciated primarily for its beauty or emotional power. There's not really anything emotionally powerful about Coca-Cola. Maybe it is expressing the author's imaginative or conceptual ideas. Perhaps. How much do you think this artwork is worth? It is indeed an artwork. It's by an artist named Andy Warhol. In the classes, we had a variety of answers from $100 to $10. One student said she wouldn't even pay $15 for this. If somebody offered you the opportunity to purchase this piece of art for any amount of money, it probably is a very good deal. This is a painting that actually is just an ad from a similar era, and it might be worth $600, maybe $700. This here is a painting from 1962 by Andy Warhol. It is 6 feet in height, and it is currently in a museum. It is worth $57 million. That is what the museum, the Crystal Bridges Museum in Bentonville, Arkansas, paid to get this Andy Warhol piece. This is a picture of Andy Warhol. He was one of the most famous pop artists. Some of you might be familiar with his work. This is one of his more popular pieces. It's a painting of Marilyn Monroe. You may have seen it as a poster. One girl said she saw it as a poster in her hair salon recently. This is another painting. It's actually a print. Does anybody recognize the central figure here? It's actually Elvis. And one of the things we were kind of laughing about with this piece was, what do you think the most basic, simple title this artwork could be given would be? It's actually called 8 Elvises. So there's a picture of Elvis. They reproduced it 8 times. He called it 8 Elvises. And if you look this up, this is actually a $100 million piece of artwork. A museum actually did pay $100 million at auction for this. Here's a piece that is a more contemporary version of pop art. It's by an artist named KAWS. Some of you might have heard of him. He has done work with producers, but most recently he's done work with Kanye West, Marshmello, and the person that sings that song, Happy. I forget his name. Here's another version of a contemporary piece of artwork of a popular figure. That's Barack Obama. This was done by the street artist Ope, also known as Shepard Fairey. So this is another video that I will link behind this because we are having issues with the videos here. So on your sheet of paper or your email, I would like you to, after your listing of the Magritte painting, what is in it, I want you to tell me, what do you want to do in art class this year? What do you want to learn? In the past, what was your favorite art project? How do you learn best? What is your favorite food? Who is the best rapper alive? And if you don't want to answer that, you can just say, who is your favorite music artist that you currently listen to? How can I help you learn? What are you looking forward to most this year? Why is art and design important? How much is too much? And why is art and design important, guys? Because if we're not using art and design effectively, we can't communicate our ideas to other people. That's why art and design is important. Email me the answer to those questions, and I look forward to teaching you guys this semester.